Bienvenidas a Cruzando Fronteras, Mamás Latinas en Canadá. Hoy nos acompaña una invitada muy especial, Leah Coss. Leah es cofundadora and CEO de una no-profit que se llama Biz Kids. Esta organización sin fines de lucro en Canadá empodera a niños de 7 a 13 años a través del emprendimiento, el desarrollo de habilidades blandas y a través de la prevención de salud mental. Hoy es un podcast un poco distinto. Hoy tengo a Juliana como co-host.
Hola.
Y bueno, hoy queremos básicamente introducir a la comunidad latina esta iniciativa que tiene Leah. Desde el 2018 ella está con esta iniciativa, con esta organización sin fines de lucro, motivando a los niños a desarrollar sus emprendimientos y a batallar un poco con algo que se habla o no se habla, de que es un poco de la salud mental. Entonces, como que a través del emprendimiento, desarrollo de habilidades blandas, soft skills, hard skills, tratar de que estos niños prosperen. Exacto. Uh-huh. Y bueno, puedan alcanzar como su máximo potencial en la vida, ¿no? Sí. Entonces, bueno, nada, antes de comenzar, quiero como comentarles que la entrevista va a ser en inglés. Vamos a tratar como que de agregar algunas cosas. Elia no habla español, entonces, bueno, va a ser netamente en inglés. Sí, vamos a tratar como que de hacer como que un switch en inglés y español. Pero
el contenido general va a ser en inglés. Sin embargo, va a ser como entre Spanglish.
Exacto, porque a mí me está costando un montón tratando de traducir inglés a español aquí en simultáneo. Bueno,
todo haciéndolo muy bien, muy bien.
Entonces, bueno, básicamente le quería dar la bienvenida en español y pues,
sí, welcome, Leah. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Leah Coss, co-founder and CEO of Biz Kids. It's a tricky one. We have to say it's a tricky one. But thanks for being here, actually, and just opening these spaces for all of us, for our kids, for our community. That's the main goal, que tengamos espacios así para nuestros hijos, para nosotros, para apoyarlos. Y estamos muy agradecidos con Leah porque tiene una súper iniciativa que la verdad que nos apoya mucho como madres a incentivar a nuestros hijos a poder emprender. So, yeah. Thank you, Leah. If you don't mind, we have a few questions for you so you can share some of your vision and your goals and what's coming up.
So, yes. First, tell us about yourself. What motivates you to create this project?
Yeah, absolutely. So I come from a business background, everything from my education to having started multiple businesses. But my forte, if you will, is franchising. So think McDonald's and how there's multiples of them. That's being able to be achieved because of systems that are designed for scale and growth, right? Okay. And at the time, my partner, he had a son who was 8 years old. And it was kind of the combination of me coaching grown-ups for so many years on business and mindset around business, and then him with this child that he's going, I need him to learn things that I didn't learn when I was a kid. And kind of the amalgamation of the two, we decided to start Build-A-Biz Kids, but as like a hobby, just something that would be kind of fun. I didn't realize at the time my own journey, though, that I was going to start uncovering, meaning my experiences as a child, my experiences as a teenager, going through tough times. And there was just something that once we got going, we found it in 2018, something in my soul just felt so much resonance with it. It felt so connected that, it's become unwavering for me, you know? Okay. Like there's been different businesses I've started before or organizations I've worked with, and it's exciting. It's fun. There's a lot of strategy and there's a lot of fun happening. But when I would sit with myself and really connect with my soul, I'd just be like, yeah, but what's the point of this, right? It didn't quite fuel me from that emotional standpoint. Build-A-Biz Kids did, and that's where a lot of reflection and personal growth has come in. And now, because I'm putting my full heart, soul, and business background behind it on a charity model, which is very different, very different, we've managed to figure out through partnerships, through community building, how we would be able to grow and reach every kid across Canada in all the communities. Yeah. And that's what's been most important. So Build-A-Biz Kids on the surface teaches kids all of these future-ready skills. Okay. Things we want our kids to learn. Yeah. How do you start a business, public speaking, and how to write a speech so that you are persuading people or sharing your opinions and your thoughts with communities, right, to create positive change. Digital literacy programs, these are all things that are very relevant today, right?
Okay.
But the reality is a lot of these technical skills, these approaches, how to communicate with the world is changing fast, right?
Way too
Like,
fast.
even if we focused on coding, like coding is a thing. Parents want their kids to learn how to code. But whatever your 10-year-old learns today, by the time they're old enough to join the workforce, that coding language is obsolete.
Yeah, and now you don't need coding, like with the
AI.
AI, just nothing like
You don't know what to teach that is relevant to their growth and their potential.
So that's where our second mission really resides. So it's really important to us that we give kids, though, these hands-on experiences, big perspectives, so they know how the world works and how they can create value, how they can contribute, right? Because when we look at employers today, they're going, we don't need technical skills from these kids. We will teach them, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Right? What we need from them are those human soft skills. Communication, empathy, leadership, decision making, self-awareness, teamwork, collaboration, resiliency, tenacity, pivoting, and being able to be flexible, organization. These are all things that you can't learn from a book.
No.
You've got to actually do them.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're helping with that mission. This is truly an economic crisis in Canada. We've got a skill labor gap. We have employers that don't want to hire youth in their 20s because youth in their 20s do have higher turnover. You tend to not have them for longer than a year, is this reputation that's been built. And they're also different in that, mental health days has become a real thing. They're needing a little bit more time to understand. This generation, I have to say, though, I admire so much because they have been more focused on the social impact and making sure that whatever they do, their soul is connected to it. Yeah. Back in my day, it was just, well, you need a good career that you can make a good income.
Yeah.
Then you can check the box for success.
Yeah.
Now, youth are like, money is great, but I'll live at home with my parents till I'm 27, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. They're not there. They don't even want their driver's licenses. They're not worried about spending money, right, on a car. What they want is fulfillment. What they want is happy people, equality, right? And so this is something that employers are having to balance, being like, well, we need a workforce. We need to innovate. We need to grow. But we don't know how to communicate with this generation. And this generation realistically doesn't have enough experience to get, the jobs and careers they want. So our second layer of what we're trying to do is, yes, we want to get kids career ready, right? To be able to contribute to their communities in a meaningful way. But the mental health crisis is really real. Yeah. So youth under 25 at this stage have the highest rate of mental health challenges to any other age group out there. 1 in 3 experience something from anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, self-harm, all of those things we just, are very scary. And for those asking for help, it's about a 6-month to 2.5-year waiting list for some sort of professional intervention.
That's just,
and we all know
time is not the essence.
Yeah, and we also know that intervention, it's not a one and done. Oh, you're not feeling good? Here, let's chat for an hour and you're fixed. It doesn't work that way. So what's interesting is when people hear what we do, they're like, that's awesome. But then they're like, wait a minute, what's your age again that you do this? And because we only teach 7 to 14-year-olds. Yeah. Most of these real world experiences don't kick in until high school. And so we reach kids so young. And the reason is because if we can get them flexing those skills that just happen to be good for skill readiness, but the human skills are also connected to mental health resiliency, coping, being able
kind of like a prevention before they start when they when they are in this situation, they have kind of like the tools to battle with this kind of thing.
Exactly. And it's not to say that this is going to prevent any mental health challenge, but this is going to give them the foundational blocks that usually many of us don't start to flex until we're in our adult years, right? Resiliency is something that you've got to do by putting yourself in some sort of controlled real world scenario and then overcome. So what we've got is not just programs that teach entrepreneurship or teach speaking. These are things that all conclude with the real world experience.
Goes a little bit more deeper. Like, okay.
So imagine your 10-year-old launching a business in a mall with strangers approaching them, right? They, each child finds a different reason on why they're excited about this. Like some are in it, let's be real, for the money.
Yeah.
They're like, I just want to make
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
I want a new
Say this,
PlayStation. Yeah, like I want the
My
money.
dad said that I have to work for this.
Exactly, right?
Saying something.
Totally. I'm going to make my own good
Yeah.
Christmas, right? But then there's others where they're so creative.
Yeah.
Right? They love painting, they love artistry of some kind. And so they love the prototyping and the packaging and the poster making, the logo creation. Others, they're social butterflies. They're like, you mean I get to make something and then talk to people and then they're going to buy it, right? So like if you have that kid that you kind of look at and you're like, man, they're just a little awkward. Like, I don't know, I can't put them in sports. They don't fit there. I can't put them in dance class. They don't like it there. Like, this is such a great thing that for the most part, every child finds something that they're internally motivated to be good at. And that's the key. Because sometimes we think, well, I'll put my kids in sports and then they'll learn resiliency and teamwork.
Yeah.
No. I've been to many a kids' little league games, a championship game in particular, and the losing team was just, they were on the ground, they were throwing things, they were so upset, they had snot running down their face, they were crying so hard, and the winning team wasn't too much better, you know? And it's like, just because you put them in that situation doesn't mean they've actually built the resiliency, right? It's about putting them in a situation that they have an internal desire to want to achieve and be good at, and then the right environment that is encouraging them to focus on the right things, which is not winning. It's not making the most money.
Exactly.
It's about what you've been able to achieve along the way, right? So we put them in these controlled stress environments, and, you know, these kids are at an age where they haven't quite built their own identities. This is something that, as parents, we're really just starting to understand the significance of the development during this time of their identity building. We often, as parents, unknowingly label our kids. Oh, they're really shy. Oh, don't worry about them.
That's true.
Right? Or, oh, they're so smart, or good or bad, right? And so these kids start to, because they don't have an identity, they believe it. The thing is, it's not just the parents, it's the teachers, it's the coaches, it's their peers.
Well,
The people outside.
It's
label
them seeing things and going, ooh, physical appearance is highly valued. If I have a good physical appearance, then I will get love. If I get an A, then I will receive love. If I win the championship, I get love. And so they're shaping their personas this way. What we want to do is we want these kids to go to these markets and to understand that they are capable, that they are of value, and to be proud of themselves for the things that they care about. And that's really the key. So one of the things with our markets that we host is we don't actually let parents at their kids' booths.
I love that.
Oh,
I absolutely love that.
Only the kids. Okay.
And it's because parents, we want them to do well. And so the moment that they start struggling with change, that you're like, oh, it's 2 dimes, you need a toonie, and you're kind of robbing them of the opportunity, right? Or maybe the kid's just sitting there and customers are walking by and you're like, say hello, talk to them, right? And it's like, that's not going to help, because now you're taking their internal motivation away from them. And, you're not letting
And they
them
feel
struggle.
pressure too, because my mom is saying that, my dad is saying that. It's just like, you know, or, oh, just go and approach to this person. Yeah, but I don't want. But I have to.
Yeah, for sure.
And I can see a Latina mom being very much.
I know.
Do it, right? Yeah. So this is about them defining their own identity,
Okay.
figuring out who they are
I
before
like
the
that.
world tells them. Because the moment they become 13 or 14, you know, whether you like it or not, they're going to have strong pressure to create social media channels. They're going to have strong pressure to show up looking a certain way or acting a certain way. And at the end of the day, so much of us rely on external validation to feel happy.
Yeah.
And so that's where kids go, oh, well, this group over here said that they'll like me, but I've got to do something mean or criminal or whatever, or I need to smoke or drink. And so they will do that to fit in, because they do that at home.
Yeah.
In order for my mommy and daddy to not yell at me, I need to fit in and follow those rules. Well, there's different rules on the playground.
Outside.
There's different rules everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
Yeah. So we also have to recognize that your kids are going home to a very happy household. And not every child has that.
No.
Right? We need them to feel a place where they feel the autonomy, the independence to go, no matter what, I know I can take care of myself because I can talk to strangers. I know how to make money. I believe in myself because I'm getting reactions from strangers. And I'm able to see the results. I've made my own decisions. I know I can change my decisions. Nothing is final. These are all things that we, again, don't learn so often until we're in the real world. And then we're having to play catch up.
Yeah.
I believe it's the lack of these soft skills, which is why so many businesses fail when they start.
Oh, yeah.
It's because they don't have the resiliency.
Yeah.
They're staring at the phone going, I don't know how to talk to people. I don't know how to make this work, right? Or they're a terrible manager, right? Because they don't know how to connect and communicate with people. So
all of those soft skills are so key for business ownership and for life, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And they're very underestimated, unfortunately. There's a lot of emphasis on the actual technical skill. But when you go out there and you don't know how to connect with people, how to communicate your thoughts and your vision, and how to just bounce back, right? Like if you had something that happened to you, instead of just like giving up or feeling, I mean, we almost feel sorry for ourselves at some point, but just being able to have the resiliency to come back and keep on going with a positive attitude. And a lot of the issue also is that we as parents, we're not equipped with that. So we don't know how to, because you can talk about it, but if your kids don't see that in you, they don't know how to replicate that. So to some extent, we parents need to re-educate ourselves.
Yes.
And we need to just go and build those skills in an environment where we can be nurtured and it's a safe environment so we can fall, and fall back again and pick ourselves up and just keep on going and build whatever we want to build. It doesn't have to be entrepreneurship. It's just building a marriage, right? It takes a lot of work and courage. So our kids can see that through us, and hopefully they build those things as they see us. And at some point it clicks, right? But what you're saying, not every kid goes to a happy household. And
That's very important.
those spaces that you're creating are so key for that.
Yeah. And do you have something for parents to learn this? Or in order to help the child? Because if the parent doesn't have the things or doesn't show with example, the kid is kind of like confusing, like somebody's telling me here, I'm learning this here, but my parents are doing something different, like, what I'm thinking.
100%. So we have a program, actually it's an online course called Encouraging a Growth Mindset. And it's a course for parents. And it's not that long.
That's amazing.
And it's very heavily equipped with just straight up tools on here's how you can do these things. So a growth mindset is basically a spectrum. So if you imagine growth mindset on one side and something called fixed mindset on the other.
It's a book, right?
Yeah. So the Carol Dweck, she's kind of like the godmother of the concept of growth and fixed mindset. Her book is called Mindset. Really highly recommend it. But what this is basically a fixed mindset is the mindset of this is how I am. I was born this way. There's not much I can do about it. Deal with it, right? And then the growth mindset is I know that I can always get better if I choose to. I just need to practice. I can grow. And as long as it's a conscious effort, I can do anything.
This is not who I am. Like it coming back to, oh, you're shy. My son is so shy. So those voices we believe. And then we grow up and we're like, well, I would never be good for that business because I'm too shy. And I hear that a lot. I'm not good with people. I'm not good at selling. I'm not good at this. And that's the fixed mindset, right? We're humans. Our mind can change and transform and we can do anything that we put our minds into it. The growth mindset is, well, I never done it. Therefore, of course, I'm not good at it because I never done it. You have to do something to get good at it. But I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to grow and I'm willing to, rechange and rewire my brain. That's the growth mindset. So for that, that's a great tool. That book se llama Mindset, el libro, y habla de la mentalidad de crecer y la mentalidad que es fixed, o sea, que uno dice, no, yo soy así.
Con la que yo viene.
That's a great book for parents. so we can equip ourselves.
Yeah. So the course that we've done is we've broken it up into different steps for them to make it so it's not like this big process for them. And like to your point though, a lot of it is before they start working on a growth mindset in their child, it's to work on it in themselves. Because if you can't become aware of it, then your child's still hearing you label yourself being like, I can't do that. Oh God, no, that's just too much work. You know, all these things. Right?
Or something like simple that, for example, like the Latin women, a lot, they say like, oh, I'm fat, or I'm this, or my hair, or my nails. But this is something normal that we could, you know, like, oh, I haven't done my nails. Oh, horrible nails, you know. But your child is listening and looking at you. How do you treat yourself, right? And especially for girls, it's kind of like, yeah, mommy, I haven't done my nails. It's just like, yeah, but you don't even do your nails. But she's just repeating things. And see, I think this is the important thing, that what things we say about ourselves, so that they can listen.
They can listen.
Copy. Because basically it's just repeating things that sometimes it's just repeating whatever that you say and just taken to them, you know?
They feel like that's the like the common thing, right? That the normal thing.
And the great benefit is that, you're going to change your wording, but it actually will completely revolutionize your life. All of a sudden, your world opens up to options, to things that felt difficult don't feel as difficult anymore, right? So, and talk about leading by example for your kids, right? But then it becomes this habit, and that's all it really is. The other thing that I'll mention is you're not just either growth or fixed. It's a spectrum, right? And it's also dependent on the topic. So for some of you, you might be more fixed mindset with athletics or physicality. I'm such a klutz. Oh my gosh, no. Or, I'm the athletic kid. Give me a ball, I will win whatever game you put in front of me, right? That's equally fixed, saying I am, right? Being fixed doesn't always mean, that's why actually the course that we created, Encouraging a Growth Mindset, is teaching parents the difference between positive praise and growth mindset praise. Because a lot of positive praise is actually very fixed. You're so smart. You won the race. You got the A. High five. You got the championship. What if that's all fixed? And so even though it's positive, it can still be.
It's still fixed. Yeah. Because then you don't. You struggle with not being perfect.
That's a big problem. So what they found is in college and university, the kids most likely to cheat on a test or exam,
perfectionists,
are the A's, the A students. And the reason being is because the C and the D and even the B students are like, well, this is who I am. Like, they're not bored. But the A students, they have this perception that if they don't get an A, they will not receive love. They will not anymore.
They get obsessed with.
And so they tend to have greater, kids labeled smart, have higher anxiety levels, tend to start making poor decisions as they get older, and the stakes get higher. The other one, so my label as a kid was you're a natural. Oh my gosh, you're such a natural at this. That's very fixed. Because for me, I was like, well, I'm a natural. It means I can't let them see me practice because then I'm not a natural. I can't let them see me sweat because then I'm not a natural. And so it's, as a kid, there's a certain point where when you don't practice, you're not going to be the best anymore. And all the other kids that are practicing, they start, and then your whole life is shattered. You're like, what good am I? And so that's where the behavior of starting to tear people down. Oh, you cheated. Oh, you suck. No, you're not that good. And it's because I know I can't raise myself any higher, so I need to bring you down.
You need to bring it down so it doesn't threaten your ego.
Exactly.
It's super interesting. I remember when because I got into a community that they teach a lot of leadership for entrepreneurs. And when I did, I remember I used to be the mom that used to yell at my kid. Because that's how, you do what you're told. That's how I was raised. Like, you do what you're told and... spanking the kid and things like that. I didn't want to do it, but I just didn't know what else to do. And when I started, being poured by leaders and people that are very invested into personal development, and they just walk a different growth journey. So I started seeing myself like, okay, I can change, and these are the tools. I remember telling Leo, my son, he's 12 now. Whenever I yell at him, I was like, I'm sorry, I lost it. You don't make me upset. It's not you. It's me not having emotional strength to not allow situation to keep me down. I'm sorry that I yelled at you. I didn't mean it. I love you. And mommy is changing. I'm going to get better. And now I don't like my house can be a total chaos, and I'm like so grounded. But I have these conversations with him, and I have 3 kids now. I ask him, do you remember when I yelled at you? Because he gets upset. He's a preteen, right? And he yells, and I'm like, that's fine, but you can change. Remember when I used to yell at you? I changed. You can change. You have that example. And he's like, yes, Mom, I remember that. And he gets better. And I'm like, we as parents need to be humble and vulnerable, because we have an ego and we're like, oh, I'm perfect to him, but I'm not. And the better we communicate that and we allow that space to be humans in front of them, not weak, because back in the day, it was perceived as
Not being
weakness.
like vulnerable.
Yeah, but they understand. They're very smart. Kids are very smart.
The 2 founding principles that we have with everything that we do are ones that are really great for all of us to remember, especially if you're a parent. So the first value, the first rule that we operate by is there's no one right answer to anything.
Okay.
Even in 1 + 1, right? That there's, you could say 2, but you ask a philosopher, right? They're going to have a much deeper answer for you.
Yeah.
You talk to a scientist, you put 2 things together, you often get exponential results, not just 2, right? It really depends. So there's no one right answer to literally anything in the world. The second, though, is that you're never done. And you are done when you say you're done. But, if Steve Jobs was done with the iPhone, well, then we wouldn't have 16 versions of the thing, right? We're never done. It can always get better.
Yeah.
And those are 2 things that we need to remember as parents, is there's no one right way to parent your child. Ask a parent with 2 kids.
Yeah.
Different kids.
One.
Right?
Yeah.
But they have different reactions and different needs, different personalities, right? And so there's no one right answer.
No.
So don't strive for perfection,
Yeah.
right? Don't feel like you're failing, because honestly, if you have this one idea, out of all the different ways of parenting, you're like, well, this is the only right idea, then that means you have an infinite number of ways to fail.
Yeah, absolutely.
And only one way to succeed. And that's a lot of pressure for anybody.
Pressure.
It's also a lie, right? It's not true. The you're never done is just relax. Because if you're, again, striving to always get to the right answer, you're probably never going to achieve it. So enjoy the change, and know as well that ideology or whatever it is that you think is the right answer, the more you learn, the more you realize that's actually not perfect. It's somewhere over here or here, and you keep growing, right?
Into yourself, right? I think that's the most important thing, that you start feeling that you as a human being, you're more aligned to who you want to be, and that obviously transfer to any relationship.
I love that you put it that way, though, because so I also do speaking, and what I speak about is about becoming someone you can admire and developing your identity on purpose rather than operating on default, which most of us do. We're operating based on the identities we were raised with, but we didn't choose them. But you can choose them, right? Just like you said, I chose not to yell at my kids, and so I don't, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not living a life that you want, it's because there's some part of your identity that doesn't match that.
Yeah.
And this is why I say when someone loses a lot of weight, they will feel really good, but then they gain it back. And it's because their identity didn't catch up to that.
Yeah.
And so they were like, even though I'm not happy over here, it's comfortable.
Yeah.
I understand it. I don't understand this. Same with people who win the lottery. Statistically, those who win the lottery, within 5 years, they not only lose it, they're filing for bankruptcy, right? And it's because their identities didn't match. They weren't ready to receive that and cope with it.
And hold it. And I love that, because it's not the fact that I don't want to yell at my kid. It's the fact that I don't want to be that person, because it just doesn't feel right.
Exactly. It feels disconnected. And so what we want is for kids to have formed some foundations of their identity based on what they think by the time they become those teenagers, where the world starts telling them what to be and who to be. Because going back to we seek external validation from people. Our parents we want to fit in with. We want them to love us. We want our teachers to accept us. We want our friends. We want strangers on social media to like us. You're never going to please everybody.
No.
You will be exhausted and depressed if you try. So we need them to know who they are, so that when someone says, your shoes are kind of dumb, what are you wearing those to school for? They're like, you know what, I didn't even think of my shoes today. Did you notice my socks didn't match? Jeez, my socks don't match. Oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to go. I've got too many other things that I'm really excited about. And it doesn't even really come across to them as an insult because it's not important to them.
You're immune. You're
Yeah.
immune.
Talk about freedom when you can control your own happiness
Exactly.
and you don't need to rely on an external
Beautiful.
factor.
Yeah.
But you know that it's hard, especially for immigrants, because I will say that the first 8 years, you have that feeling that you don't really belong to the place that you are.
Yeah.
So not within the family, but in the community that you've immigrated.
Also the community, the country, the cultural team, like a lot of
Yes.
things. So I would say especially for the Latin community, it's hard
Yes.
because you have to adapt yourself as an adult to all this environment,
Yeah.
try to support your child that is
Yeah.
adapting.
Probably
and
faster than
learning.
you.
Yeah, faster,
Because they're
yeah.
immersed.
Oh, yeah,
at a young
yeah,
age,
totally.
right? They're like,
No,
Mom,
no,
that's not how you do things.
And we're
Like,
like, oh,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Trying to
Catch
learn,
up.
and it's really hard. Like from the immigrant perspective, is this like a big battle? I will say, like
Yeah.
to adapt to all of this, and plus try to change your how do you say like creencias?
Your
There's
belief
something, yeah,
system,
you believe from your country or what you learn and those things, and now changing everything, and now to teach your child and let them, and in the same time they are learning faster than you and telling you no, this is not right. This is how they do things here, and you are kind of like battling with that. So I don't know. I think I will say for the immigrant perspective, there is kind of like education thing
Yeah.
that we must have to do.
I think
Or
it's
something
also
because there is kind of like a component additional to all of this part that still that you kind of like below starting from scratch. A lot of people say that. A lot of people say like I'm moving to a new life and new experience. But for a lot of people it's kind of like I'm just starting like from nothing. I'm just building myself here with my family and those things. So it's kind of like hard in that sense. So with that said, do you have something like maybe to acknowledge these families or these communities that is like, okay, we understand and we know you're struggling for all this situation, but also we can help you with this and also incorporate all of this for your kids and have all these tools for them to thrive on those things? Do you have something or?
So as someone who was born and raised here, I don't really understand all of what you're going through.
Yeah.
Right? And I would never be like, here's how you fix your situation that I've never had to experience.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
There are some things though that if we take the same philosophies from, so say for example, you are a woman who's been married for a long time and you have kids and you've been together for 20 years and then you divorce and now you're a single parent. You're entering a different phase. You have to have this rapid change. Or someone who's been working in their career forever and at 45 they're like, I'm scrapping it all. I'm going into a different industry. I'm going to reinvent my life, right? Essentially, no matter what, the idea of what we're saying is whatever you're embarking upon, right? Picture someone with no face, or someone that you know who has been successful at what you're trying to achieve. So maybe they've come to a new country and they've been able to flourish, right? Or just create a hypothetical person, faceless, and just kind of close your eyes and go, when they encounter a situation where maybe someone's like, why don't you speak better English? I don't understand you. How would this person react to that situation?
What would they do?
Yeah. When your child comes up to you and says, Mom, you don't get it. How would this person react in this situation? And what you want to do, I always say there's a two process to really figuring out your identity. And this is something more for grown-ups. For kids, we just want them to be these malleable sponges and let them have these controlled stress environments we put them in and they can kind of find themselves through it, right? But for adults, we're like, we don't have as much time. Like, let's like transform here, right? And so I say the first thing is, what do you want? I want to live an abundant life with my family in a new country, right? Whatever that is. And then you go, okay, now picture someone who's doing the life you love, who's embodying this life that you love, and write down all the different.
But for real, so for real, not of somebody that you found in Instagram or something that is pretending that have
someone that you know
I just
their
want to
family.
make that.
Yeah.
Someone that you know their marriage, like.
But that's why having a faceless person too, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't always have to be
Yeah.
someone that
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But this is going to sound really weird. So there's certain situations, and whether it be because of who he is in his real life or the characters he's plays, okay. Denzel Washington is this guy that seems like he's unfazable to me. Like if the building he's in goes on fire, he's just going to be like, all right, and he'll just handle it, right?
I know.
Right, and so I'll picture him, and I'll be like, okay, so what is it about him that allows him to do that?
And you research that person.
Well, it's not even about research. This is about you going, in my soul, how do I think he's processing this? What is he feeling? He's probably feeling, okay, there's something happening. I don't have control over it. I know that I probably need to remove myself from the situation. I want to lead with kindness and help other people along the way within reason to get out. Like, he's going to process these things. And I go, okay, so let's write those things down. Let's get a clear picture. And then you want to start to feel those feelings for yourself. So whether, I don't know if your audience is very spiritual or very scientific oriented, but what I love is when, like, say, religion and science and spirituality have overlapping things, you're like, there's got to be something to it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And so something in our brain called the reticular activating system, RAS, okay? That's a scientific thing. What that means is that if you have been, say, told you're dumb, you're super dumb, you failed this test. Your brain, the reticular activating system, if you're young enough and it goes, ooh, that seems plausible, I'm going to start looking for evidence from here on out to prove that. Okay? It's the same thing where if you buy a new car and you're like, I love this car, and then you drive it off the lot and then you see 8 of them. And you're like, what? Now those cars were always there, but your brain wasn't looking for it. So now, because I need to validate that I'm dumb, or I'm a klutz, or I'm smart, or I'm whatever, your brain is, the reticular activating system is looking for evidence constantly, and that's why these things feel really ingrained. From a spiritual side, it could be like law of attraction. It's about whatever you focus upon is what you can start to see, and then you can start to receive. So
we have something similar that we call, I believe the translation will be something kind of like the yellow butterfly. That is like if you focus like looking yellow butterfly that you say like doesn't exist, but that means like this is the name that you give to that, but it's something that you would like to see all the time. So and this is kind of like
manifesting.
So this is the focus that you have. If you are going like walking, looking for the yellow butterfly, you will find that.
So that's how you would go about trying to now reprogram. But you need to know what you're trying to reprogram.
Exactly.
So one thing you can never do is you can't say stop doing something. Your brain is incapable of stopping something. It needs to replace it with something. That's why if someone's trying to overcome an addiction, they say go to the gym or go for walks, because you need to replace the behavior. That it can focus on. So because of that, you have this vision of, I want to be someone who is calm. And you kind of start talking yourself through it. There's a lot of tools. I call it like the emotional climbing, where you're like, okay, I want this. I want to be calm. I want to be someone who is able to handle things under pressure. Then you can start to go to, I am someone who's calm. I've been calm in stressful situations before. I can totally be calm in stress. And so you start to talk yourself, and it's like positive affirmations, but you're getting to a point where you can't just, if you just start saying, I'm a calm person. I don't yell at my kids. But you're like, I just did it this morning. Your brain goes, you're a liar.
And that happens a lot, because you mentioned something very important, that is the feeling behind the affirmation. Because and I think that happens a lot with Latino women. There's like, oh, I have this dream and I want this house, but inside it's like, and you have that feeling like, you're a martyr. You're like, oh no, like you feel pity for yourself. You feel sorry, but you're saying it.
You say, but you don't really mean it. You don't feel that you can
feel
reach that.
It's the feeling, because I believe in like the energy, that your thoughts are energy. So if you don't feel right about it, you're saying it, but you don't feel right, the energy, you're just not.
It's the same reason why when you're feeling bad and someone else says, everything will be fine. You're beautiful. You're this. You're like, it's too far. It's too far on the emotional climb. If you, though, were to say, I know that I've done some dumb things. I know that I could be perceived as being dumb. I know that I'm not always dumb, though. I know that I've done some things that have been really good. I know today I could do some good things today. I could do some really smart things today. And all of a sudden you're kind of climbing and it doesn't feel
I
like a
like the
reach.
emotional climb.
Yeah. And so then you can get to the point where you're saying, I am a smart person. I may not be smart all the time, but I am a smart person. Then all of a sudden, and it's a process, you have to be consistent, right?
Yeah.
You've had these labels hit at you and seeking evidence of for however old you are, right? For that many years. So you want to be consistent with reminding yourself of this, and then that reticular activating system where the law of attraction will start to grab hold and build momentum and look for evidence of all the places you are smart, or you are a good parent, or you are able to be calm in these stressful situations. So it's about just simply reprogramming, and that's all that it is. This is like, I call it a golden retriever, our brains, because they're very trainable, right? But you've got to be consistent, and you've got to know what you're trying to train them for. But if you just let the golden retriever go on default, they're just a goofball.
Yeah.
Hi, how's it going? I'm here. And that's how we operate.
Yeah,
Except we are not necessarily goofy. Our identity was built by default through coping, through difficult situations, through survival, right? And then we hold on to that, and then it becomes really ingrained as just our regular operating system. And so you can always tell what your identity is at this moment based on when you sit by yourself. What is the self-talk that goes on? The other is when your defenses are down, you're caught off guard, what is your reaction? Right? So if someone cuts you off in traffic, are you like, and you're yelling at them, you're like, what? And it's like, oh, wait a minute, geez, wasn't expecting that, right? Or are you the person where one day after you've done some of this work, someone cuts you off and you go, oh, they must be in a hurry. And you're like, wait a minute, that was new behavior, right? Like you wanna acknowledge when your behavior's starting to shift, and then take that moment to be like, I am someone who stays calm under pressure. I am someone who can do this, and your system will just
start changing the
building.
identity.
Yes.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I mean, it's so inspiring to have you here. And you're doing all of this work with, I mean, you've done a lot of work with adults too, I believe.
Speaking and stuff like that. I work with adults, but then primarily it's all through Build Biz Kids with the charity.
Is that it goes hand in hand, right? But the fact that you're helping kids from very, very early ages to help them thrive and build those skills, so by the time they are teenagers and young adults, they're better equipped, and it really will change the society. It will change communities, and it will change the reality of so many young adults that are struggling. Personally, I met so many young adults that are struggling with antidepressants and medicated, and they're so young, and you're like, that's not the answer. That's not going to be sustainable. So the work that you're doing is super inspiring, something that we really want to promote with our community, and hopefully this podcast can help other moms out there navigating immigration, being a newcomer. You gave us so many tools. Perhaps we can even one day talk about all of these tools in the Spanish as well.
Or somebody that can bring your message in Spanish. Because I think it's amazing, and it's just going very well with this immigration process and those things, you know. And also like try to help your child to reach all those things. I think everything is just going kind of together,
intertwined, and so thank you, Leah. So going back to the kids market. So when is that happening? When is that happening? How can where can we find you? What's on the table?
I'll give you all the ways that you can connect. So the first thing, which is probably the most time sensitive, but not to worry, we have them twice a year, is our Biz Kids Summer Market and our Biz Kids Christmas Market. So our summer market is July 26th, 2025, and that's going to be at the City of Lougheed Mall. So very central mall, easy to access in Burnaby. We're going to have over 50 kid entrepreneurs launching their businesses. The event brings out over 12,000 people, so it's a really busy, community-focused event, and we're right where the old Santa Claus display usually goes in the wintertime, so easy to find. Definitely want to bring your kids. It's free, and you'll get a lot of shopping done, but most importantly, your kids will be so inspired. So that's our event. Now, maybe you would like for your child to be able to come to one of our next markets, but you don't know where to start to help them, feel encouraged or go through the steps of starting a business. So we've created an at-home, it's called Solo Entrepreneur Kidpreneur Accelerator Program, and it's a step-by-step online course, but it's fully voice and video guided. Meaning maybe your child has been given labels like dyslexia or ADHD, or they're slow with their reading or something like that. This is the YouTube generation too. These kids want visual engagement and audio engagement. And so through every step of the course, it's 13 modules, and it's going to have a voice prompt on if there's visuals like pictures and examples. It's got a lot of videos in it where it's actually kids their own age, teaching them what is market research, what is an inventor and prototyping, how to market your business, how to make money. So it's kids talking to them instead of grown-ups.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And parents can find this program in your website?
Yeah, so buildabizkids.com. If you go to access programs, it'll say parent resources, and you click there, and that's where you'll find the solo entrepreneur program. One thing I'll mention with that is, because we're a charity, it's a 1-for-1 program. So when you buy this course for your child, you're helping us reach a child from a vulnerable community somewhere in Canada, which is pretty cool. Then that's also where you can find that growth mindset course for parents. So parents can go there. Yeah. And then when we have the events, the kid vendor applications are right on the website under our events tab. And so that's where your child can apply to be a vendor at our next event. Our next one will be November 29th. And that's also going to be at the City of Lougheed Mall.
Nice. That's for winter.
That's the winter market. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, mamitas, ya saben, ahorita por el mercado que va a estar el 26 de julio, ya está sold out, lamentablemente, pero si ustedes quieren participar y que sus hijos se lleven como que esta experiencia de todo lo que ofrece y todo el exposure que hay sobre esto, va a haber un mercado en noviembre, el 28 de noviembre,
29.
Ok, el 29 de noviembre. Entonces, si quieren participar, quieren que sus hijos sean parte de esta experiencia, contáctenos o contacten Leah o vayan a la página web, que se los vamos a dejar aquí, para que tengan más información. Sorry. I was just saying like
Yeah.
marketing, like
Yeah.
For the market. That's
Yes.
I will okay.
Yeah.
No, it's all good. I can pick up on what you were saying. Yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah. Bring your kids for
Yeah.
July
Yeah.
market, so they
Just
can
to
get
see what is-
inspired. They can get inspired. They can see themselves
Mhm.
having a booth for winter time. It would be super fun.
Yeah.
Ya, y eso es importante, ahorita lo acabo de ver, que como el mercado para julio ya está sold out, o sea, ya no hay cupos, pero pueden ir a ver. Entonces sus hijos también pueden ver lo que hacen otros niños. Y eso
Inspirarse.
básicamente, sí, motivarse, inspirarse, como para que vean que otros niños están, o sea, lo que hacen otros niños. Y si ellos quieren hacer lo mismo, entonces, bueno, está el mercado para noviembre. Así que...
Estén atentas. Yeah.
Y do you have any story about any of these kids that, I don't know, that comes to your mind that you say, wow, this blows my mind, or something that was like amazing, or like very, I don't know, something
A
that you can
testimony
say.
worthy.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what's so incredible is there's growth the whole way through them building their business, right? They're learning to make decisions. I remember with my partner's son, he was going to make soap. And when we went to the store, it really hit us in the face how decision making is something we don't usually let our kids do. It's at most apple or orange juice, you know, but we're not really like, hey, make a decision.
You
that
give
can
two
impact.
options for them to make a decision.
Exactly, right? And also to make a decision that feels like it's going to change something really important, right? And so when we're at the store and he's deciding what smell he wants his soap to be, and we're like, well, do you want just one smell, or are you going to give them options? And he was like, oh, I don't know. And we said, well, you know, also keep in mind, the more of the scents that you buy, the more your cost is, right? And his mind almost exploded. He was almost ready to cry, being like, but I don't know. Like, will I make enough money if I have to? What if people don't like the smell of lavender? Like, he was having this existential crisis at Michael's over, what do I buy? But talk about like that, again, that controlled stress environment where it's like, it's okay, buddy, like, let's walk through it.
Yeah.
And if I can give parents any advice, is don't tell kids the answer, because for one, again, there's no one right answer, and you probably don't know an answer that's really necessarily the best.
Yeah.
Ask them questions to help them get there, right?
Figure it out.
But at the events, what's great, so there's the growth along the path of making decisions and changing decisions and feeling the high stakes, right? And then the pressure of the event, like, what if nobody buys from me, right? They're going through all of the feels. But at the event, if you're there for the whole day, you see them grow during that day in a huge way. So there was this one girl, it was a summer market, she was selling knit headbands. So having a knitted headband at a summer hot market, people aren't buying knitted items, right? And so it was going really slow for her. But all of our volunteers there, we call them mentors, and they know how to engage with the kids, ask questions, right? And so we kind of have some plants of people where we go, okay, can you go buy from her? But ask her a lot of questions. Make her have to work for it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when you buy something, like, that will mean more to her. And so after that one transaction, she had been getting kind of defeated. So it was about halfway through March. She'd gotten defeated. She was looking around. Other kids were selling a lot. We sent someone over. They engaged with her, and she sold something. And her whole perspective changed. And all of a sudden, by the end of the market, this girl had her headbands on her arms, coming up to you being like, I've got the perfect headband color for your outfit that you're wearing.
Perfect.
Like, she was hustling. But her confidence was like, I can control whether I sell something. I don't just sit there and wait for someone to come up for me, you know?
Get it in your head, like everyone is
Yes.
selling, I'm not selling. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Learning that at that age, priceless.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. You know, there's Carly, which I love because she was selling succulents in these teacups, and she had her table there, and this elderly kind of person who's a little grumpy looking, just walking up, and they're just like looking at her stuff, and she's like, hi, would you like to learn about my succulents? And they're just like, they're just grunting, like, and they shake their head and they walk away. And we're looking at it like, oh no, right? And she turns around and she's like, they're grumpy. And then she's just like, and we're like, oh my gosh, I've seen grown-ups cry at events
Just because
someone like was like, your product is stupid. And they're like, oh no, right? Wyatt, he was given every label, and to the point, like he was told he was ADHD, dyslexic, you know, struggling in school, and to the point where then his parent was like, well, we're gonna homeschool him then. And he had a friend that had taken multiple programs of Biz Kids, and he'd been to our markets, and he was like, you should go sell, because Wyatt had become super obsessed with 3D printing. He knew everything about every kind of printer, how to make his own custom stuff, and so he came and he was really nervous. But his booth was the busiest. People were not just wanting to buy his stuff, but they were asking them all this information about 3D printers, and they're like trying to learn from him. Like, you know way too much. And he's only like 15 at the time, I guess. And so his confidence grew. He sold so much, and that was at our summer market. By the time he came back at our winter market, so just a few months later, he had been to, I think, like 14 markets. He was making on average $1,000 at every market.
Perfect.
And he now had someone come up to him being like, hey, I'm trying to make these little models, and, you know, going to China, they want me to buy like 30,000 of them, and I don't even know if they're going to be right. And he's like, oh, I can make a mock-up for you and then do a small run of 30. And so now he's doing like these commercial jobs, right? And custom jobs. And so it's like, it's so cool. And then we had this event where we put a couple of our Biz Kids together for this tour. They got to meet Brian Scudamore from Dragon's Den. And this Wyatt kid was there along with Tyga. Now, Tyga had been a part of our programs right from the beginning as well. And so he's now around Wyatt's age. And he had been trying to get this prototype made for a travel toothbrush holder. He was so passionate about it. But again, he was like, I don't know how to get it. If I go to China, they want to charge me like 10 grand just for the mold. And then I got to order a bunch. And Wyatt's like, I can make that. And so they were like collaborating at the event together.
Beautiful.
It's so cool. Yeah.
Oh,
that's amazing.
great testimony. I'm excited. I'm excited for my son to be part of the winter.
Yeah, like it's great personal development, but talk about perspective to be like, there's just so many
So
opportunities
many
in the world.
And we get, like, kids get like put up in these little balls.
Totally. It's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then you go to
so
college,
much,
and then and it's like, there's so many paths. So many paths.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Beautiful. I'm so excited.
You almost covered all the questions.
Yeah.
If you can give an advice to parents to help the kids in this process, what would you say?
In terms of the process of just them developing, or in building a business?
I would say both.
Okay.
You know, like, or if they see like kind of like that potential in their kids, or like that curiosity, you know, like how can they like support the kids?
The biggest advice that I have for parents is, you know, for one, there's no one right answer. Like, don't feel like you're a bad parent because you don't have the right answers, right? But a lot of it really comes down to the parent, and that is allow your kid to trial and error. I don't even like to use the fail word because it sounds so harsh, but ultimately, like, just let your kids do, even if it means risking them getting an F on a paper or on a project. Let them make the decisions. Your role, I always say teaching is a misnomer. The role of anyone who wants to help someone achieve something is to facilitate, meaning you're there not to be the expert, you're there to help bring out the best in them by asking questions that they can't ask, right? So often we just want to solve the problem. How do I solve the problem? But you are saying the wrong thing. You need to ask the right questions, and then the answers come out of you, right? So as a parent, if you see your child struggling, what is it you're feeling right now? Feeling so angry and frustrated. Okay, tell me why. Why are you feeling that? Oh, because Joey did this, and they took my toy, and it's why do you think Joey did that, right? Like, help them explore, help them see other perspectives. And so it's really about just knowing it's not up to you to fix anything and that you're not supposed to have a right answer because there isn't one. No. And if you start thinking there is, then your child's going to live with that pressure where they feel like they have to live up to a certain perfection of answers, and that's just creating this negative cycle of,
At some point they have to bring through that, right?
Yeah, and you need them to be able to figure out their own answers in life, right? Otherwise, they're going to be the ones living at your house till they're 30 because they don't know how to fend for themselves, right? Yeah. They need to be able to find their own answers and to be fearless to try something, knowing it's not the end of the world if it doesn't work the way they wanted it to.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
That's great advice. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And what advice will you give to somebody that have the initiative to create a project for the community?
Helping the community, just start, because you don't have to register as a nonprofit to do good in the world. Yeah. You don't have to spend a lot of money or do a lot of market research before you do it. A lot of times it's the same thing with entrepreneurship. We go, when I get some money, I'm going to start this business, right? Yeah. Actually, I remember one of my first interviews, it was for 1-800-GOT-JUNK, to work with them. And it was me and this other girl that were being interviewed at the same time. And it was on a radio show, no less. That was our final interview. It was crazy.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was before The Apprentice. Yeah, and it was before The Apprentice when that was a thing. Yeah. And so I remember the person interviewing us said, if you won a lot of money, what would you do? And I was like, I'd start so many businesses. I'd have so much fun, right? And then she goes and she's like, I would volunteer and I would do all of this. And in my head, I'm like, you can do that now. You don't need a lot of money. But it just shows that so many of us have this perception. I can't do it until I have the money or I have the time or the conditions are perfect. And so if you see an opportunity to do something in your community, just start doing it, right? And you'll start to attract other people that want to do it. And then if it gets to the point where you need to register as something, then start looking into it. But don't feel like you have to.
You have to do that. I'm that person. I'm like, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm a doer.
Yeah. And that's the best way to know if it's going to work. Right? Yeah. That's what we try to encourage the kids.
And you got track, like you're saying, you attract people and opportunities. And it might not be the thing, but it might lead you to the thing.
Yeah, there's you got to create your prototype, which is always going to be terrible. That's why you don't spend a lot of money on it and you go, do you like this? You don't? Oh, geez, okay, let's change it. Do you like this? Okay, let's change it again, right? In business, it's called an MVP, your minimum viable product, right? And that's what you need to do even in services. Yeah. I perceive that this community needs help or this initiative needs help, but maybe they don't. They don't. There's, a great example, right? It would be like me being like, I know exactly what the Latino community needs. I'm just going to start doing it. And it's like, you don't know jack. Are you kidding me, right? It would be more so me being, I want to help maybe the Latino community, but then I'm going to call up you ladies and be like, hey, is this even viable? Is this a thing? Do you need this? And you might be like, no, right? We just don't. So, and in business and in life, I think you never want to make assumptions. You just want to start doing and get feedback that'll tell you if you're on the right track.
How.
Yeah, totally.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Leah.
Yes.
Thank you. But we'd love to have you here and pouring into our community. And we hope to see all the Latina moms con todos sus hijos en el mercado de julio 26, right? 26.
In the Logi Mall.
Yeah, we're going to put all the
Vamos a poner toda la información para que vayan y soporten.
and apoyar it, support Leah's also vision, support our kids, support ourselves. Most importantly, I think we need to support ourselves so we can transfer that to not only our kids but our communities. And yeah, and just create these spaces. That's something that personally I have in my mind. I was telling Andreina that I have, as some of you might know, I have my business Empower Her. And this year I wanted to launch Empower Kids. And basically it's similar but not similar, but it has some aspects.
Mission.
Yeah, similar mission of creating spaces where kids can come and just bring their businesses and ideas and services. And I come in from a place of having a son that is 12-year old, and for 2 years, because he has seen me build my business, he has this business entrepreneurial curiosity, right? So he's been selling so many things throughout the year, saving money, buying a 3D printer with some money. He prints his toys. He prints everything. Everything, our magnets in the fridge, his dream board, everything is 3D printer at home. And he keeps he went to a market actually, but it was a market where I participated, and he was like, he's actually, I don't want to put labels, but he like on the social aspect, he's more reserved, to put it that way. So he's been telling me for years, I don't want to go to markets, Mom. I have to talk to people. Like, no. So he sells the product through me. But that market, he asked me, can I come? And I was so proud of him. And I let him. I gave him my phone for the Square app. And at the beginning, he was like, and at the end of the market, you saw him, he was like, give me the phone, Mom. Give me the phone. And I just didn't interfere. He just put them on. He got people tapping. He loved the tapping. He was so proud of himself. And he was like, when is the next market, Mom? And he started printing all of these things now. So I was like, winter market.
Yeah.
But also create that in our community, right? Just do it. We can do it with Andreina. We just bring a place, open a space for the Latino moms to bring their kids, and just have fun and just empower each other, empower our kids, and open the spaces where we can support each other, and most precisely our kids that are just the future. Right. So thank you for the inspiration.
And remind us where can find you.
Yeah. So buildabizkids.com is the website. That'll be where you can find the growth mindset course for parents, the solo entrepreneur at home course, all the details on the events. And then feel welcome to follow us on social media. Everything is Build a Biz Kids. You can follow me as well. I do a lot on
Instagram,
Facebook, LinkedIn. Yeah.
Okay.
We're also on YouTube with all of our videos. You can see a lot of the kids in
a lot of the
action.
kids. I've been watching those
like
videos.
some links for the videos.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then you can follow me as Leah Coss. I'm the only Leah Coss in the world, so easy to find. Just Google me and I'll pop up.
Nice. And also tell us how can people get involved in sense like as a partner, donor, or volunteer.
Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, so we're a charity, and our goal is to reach 500 communities across Canada by the end of 2026. So right now we're sitting at about we just brought on 16. We're at about 50 something now. But we've got the model to be able to do that. We just need the extra resources, the funding. So we're a registered charity. You can donate. You get your charitable tax receipt. If you buy our solo entrepreneur program, it's a 1-for-1 program. All of that money goes to the charity. If you'd like to be a part of our events, they've gotten so big. We broke Brentwood Mall's historical traffic record of over 12,000 people coming to our last event. So they're big, and they're filled with community, families, homeowners, small and medium business owners. So if you'd like to be a sponsor for those events, please let us know. We have very unique sponsor packages as well, where your money doesn't just help the charity and the event. It helps you where you get to be an angel investor to one of the kids, so they can invest in their business to up-level it. So it's super cool. And then, of course, with our programs, we were just talking before this about our programs, being able to translate them into Spanish and be able to make this more accessible for more people. So we're always looking for sponsors who want to be a part of that, to raise money, to be able to do these different initiatives for reaching more communities.
I love that. And also, like Latino moms, women, we have our businesses, we're organizing markets, maybe some of the profits of those markets you can donate to.
Yeah, some people do where, 10%
businesses.
or 1%. Some we have like a home inspector where he says for every home inspection, he donates $5. So there's different ways that you can certainly
Engage,
make a
yeah,
really big
donate.
impact. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leah, for sharing your project, this amazing initiative, and also to give the parents and kids the opportunity and to bring them to have exposure to real life. I think this is the most important thing. I'm amazed about because of course I did my research looking the page, but now that you are explaining everything, just like
Wow.
I have that feeling. So
Yeah,
The
thank
wow
you.
feeling.
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you here and supporting us.
Yeah, thank you very much for accepting this and to share all this about your project and of course your personal things, because I can feel that this is something that really like you are doing like from the heart, and that's really
You're inspiring.
yeah. So, oh wow. Sí, muchas gracias si han llegado hasta acá. Esperamos que esto haya sido de mucho provecho. Sé que toda la conversación la mayoría de la conversación fue en inglés, pero bueno, vamos a tratar como de hacer unos clips, algo para sacarlo un poquito más en español, o quizás podemos hacer como algo condensado en español.
Sí.
Pero de verdad, esto no tiene pérdida, este episodio. Creo que a las mamitas y bueno, que tienen hijos que están interesados en esto, incluso a las mismas mamás, porque Lía compartió muchos consejos, especialmente para los papás, para que puedan trabajarse ellos y trabajar y poder ayudar a sus hijos en este proceso. Porque bueno, exponerlos a la vida real y a estar a vender, a compartir, a hablar con extraños en un ambiente safe, por así decirlo, controlado, es duro, es algo que hay que como que cultivar, hay que enseñar a los hijos a hacer eso. Y bueno, los papás también, si tienen como creencias limitantes para ese tipo de cosas, les va a costar un poco poder apoyarlos a eso, pero creo que este programa está hecho para poder como romper esa barrera y para ayudar a muchas familias y obviamente a sus hijos. Y creemos, la forma en que creemos que podemos ayudar a nuestra comunidad es trayendo esta iniciativa de Leah para que ustedes puedan tomar provecho de esto, y bueno, y obviamente sus hijos. No olviden seguirnos en nuestras redes sociales, nos consiguen como cruzandofronteras.ca, en YouTube, obviamente, Instagram, Facebook. Compartan este video, suscriban, comenten. Obviamente si tienen preguntas sobre esto, háganoslo saber, por favor, sin pena. Leah es muy abierta también a explicar muchas cosas. Podemos ser intermediarios también, porque sabemos que hay muchas mamitas que no hablan inglés o que se sienten tímidas para conversar. Y nosotros podemos servir como que como un puente para hacer esta conexión. Así que sin pena, búsquennos, escríbanos y será hasta un próximo episodio. Y
gracias.
Thank you very much, Leah, again.
Thank you.
Okay. Hasta la próxima. Bye bye.